yeah, I should win just because you had the Timberwolves in the 8th seed.
Vasilevsky's been playing really well, and the Lightning have a great offense.
Yeah, it was a tremendous shot, and I've come to expect it from LeBron. I would say I wish the best for the Red Sox, but as a Yankees fan, that's really hard for me to do.
The biggest addition to me is Jalen Brunson.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Why'd you have to name him? Like, seriously? Like, thanks, man.
Who would have thought 5 years ago that the Clippers and Nets would be facing in the finals?
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground?
Crazy. And for the fans at home,
Hello, I'm Cy Mendenhall, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. This one we've been talking about. This is the man who I'm sure benefits, his team benefits from this because in general, I don't think Matt Eberflus, like we talked about it in the Matt Eberflus video, and the man I'm talking to, of course, is Austin, whose team benefits. This just seemed like delaying the inevitable in the offseason when we both agree it's important to have consistency with a rookie quarterback from year 1 to year 2.
Yes. However, I don't entirely disagree with the firing in this circumstance because of what has happened. I mean, not just to mention the locker room issues, the offensive issues, but just the fact that Matt Eberflus is, I think, 5-19 in one-score games. That's the worst mark of anyone who's played at least 20 games, and for a head coach. And it's just bad clock management. It's bad coaching. You can just watch the game and be like, wow, that's bad coaching. And whenever you have too many of those moments during the year, the Bears game, the Packers game, and now the Lions game, and the second half of the Cardinals game, when you have too many of those moments, it's really like, I don't think it's beneficial to have him leading the team.
Yeah, and I can't believe. When I was cooking while Thanksgiving, the game was happening. I thought they just didn't have timeouts, and then I saw there was a timeout left. That's terrible clock management. My point is, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't think they should have called a timeout. It's the fact that when they went down, Kevin, there was 33 seconds on the clock. You're telling me that you can't call a play call a play and get a play running in 33 seconds? There was at least 20 seconds on the clock when everyone was set and Caleb kept walking around calling the play. He did that for another 14 seconds and then hiked the ball with around 6 to 5 seconds left. The problem wasn't calling the timeout at 33. The problem is when you see Caleb walking around, me and my dad talked about this for a solid 30 minutes. At some point, he just needs to be like, hey, you're not calling a play. We don't know what's happening. At 10 seconds, timeout.
Yeah, that's what I'm in agreement with. It's not the 30. It's when it gets to 10 seconds, like you're saying, timeout. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you on that.
Yeah, I agree with not calling the timeout when there's 33 seconds left because you want the clock to run so the Lions have no chance of doing anything, right? So it's just bad clock management. It's bad coaching. It's bad situational awareness, not just from Caleb, but from Matt Eberflus for not protecting his quarterback. And so I just and protecting him from himself, really. It's bad. And when moments like that happen multiple times, the Commanders game, the Packers game, the Lions game, like those are bad. Those are bad losses. Horrible losses. Losses that I think
they flipped the season, like you're saying.
100%. They're 4-8. You give them those 3 wins, they're now 7-5. And that is a completely different circumstances. So I don't disagree with the firing after what happened.
I don't necessarily disagree with the firing. My thing is, why not fire him before the season starts? To me, there was
Well,
nothing
because you saw how the season started. Matt
Yeah.
Eberflus didn't have a great offensive line, and they still don't, but they didn't have a great offensive weapons. They had DJ Moore. That was it. The running game wasn't good. Their passing game wasn't good. They didn't. You have to give them a chance with Keenan Allen, with DJ Moore, with Rome Odunze, with DeAndre Swift, with Caleb Williams, and it looked good to start. Everything was there. He got out-coached. That's how they lost those games. He got out-coached. And that's a problem.
Okay. From my point of view, it looks like I understand giving him a chance, but to me, it was like he had to cover a lot of ground for them to not fire him at the end of the year, which is why I'm like, if you're going to choose to do with it, which this kind of goes to the point, it was doing more harm than good. You talk about the play calling and just that scenario with Caleb calling the play. That to me, that kind of calls in the offensive coordinator. He's got to have something in that, or what are you thinking?
At some point, you just need to call a play, right? It's I look. He's a rookie QB. He's gonna make mistakes, but man, you have to have better clock awareness than that. And it all comes down to coaching. I don't really blame the
drilled into him.
I think that's head coach mistake. That's not offensive coordinator mistake. The play call, offensive coordinator mistake. The play design, which is different because it's where everyone is standing or where everyone's running to, not necessarily the exact play call. Like if two guys are in the same spot, that's play design, not play call. That's offensive coordinator mistake. Not calling a timeout, not being able to get a playoff, that's head coach mistake. That's mental errors, right? It's beating yourself. The Bears have beat themselves in 3 games. Maybe more, but I'm just talking about at the end of the last play of the game, the Bears are beating themselves. And that's historic.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, but I would still think there's hope because of Caleb Williams. And to me, the big thing for me was consistency, as we've talked about, which looking at this and Thomas Brown, it looks like Thomas Brown in the first 2 games, or no, this is 3 games, because you have the Packers game was his first game as offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then you have, or was it just 2?
I think it's just 2.
It's just 2. Okay. They had more success in the second half against the Lions. So to me, having Thomas Brown for this season, we'll have to see how he does. But to me, that at least feels better about consistency. You did bring up a good point with Justin Herbert. He was able to battle different coaching staffs. But to me, the thing with the consistency, which is like I'm so key on, I'm sure people are getting annoyed by it, but to me, that consistency just helps because Caleb right now, and rookie quarterback in general, is learning what a defense looks like in the NFL. It's just so much faster. And he's also learning the playbook. Or he's learned the playbook, but he's going to have a better understanding of what this play will do against this defense. So changing that playbook, because that's just going to happen with a new coaching staff, and that's what the Bears are going to aim for in a new head coach. To me, he's learning a new playbook while still adjusting in year 2 to what defenses are throwing at him, because there's going to be film on him in year 1 in the NFL versus just film on him in college where he excelled.
That's true, but at the same time, there's more harm than good happening right now. Right? So I understand trying to give him a chance. I understand firing him after what happened. There are, I'd say 90% of circumstances where I'm like, give the coach 3 years, give your quarterback some leeway so that your rookie QB, so that he has the opportunity to understand under the same leadership for a while. But at the same time, like, you have to be able to help your quarterback, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point with that. And looking at just the terrible clock management, in Caleb running around and that just not being drilled into him and not being prepared for those situations, because a coach does develop the game plan for the week and what are we going to focus on. So yeah, it did look like it was harming him more than helping him. To me, it just seemed like this is something that could have been avoided if they did it last season. They're just like, we're going to start anew.
But I still understand with like the 3 years thing that I mentioned before, and the offense was he had no weapons, so I understand it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I don't blame the Bears have made mistakes in the past. How they dealt with Matt Eberflus, I don't really blame them.
Okay. I do blame them a little bit because to me, from what I see is I think they're pretty set on firing Matt Eberflus after this year or even during this year.
If you beat the Packers and beat the Lions, don't beat yourself. They're 6-6. You're telling me that's hey, the offensive coordinator may have been the problem. Hey, we're figuring it out. We're turning it around. That's positive. I don't think they were set if they had turned it around. What had to happen for him to get fired was what happened. I think if they lose by 20 points in both of those games, he's not fired.
Ooh, okay. I think he's definitely fired.
No,
Ooh.
I don't.
Ooh.
I think that it's how they beat themselves at the end of both of those games. They should have won both.
On the Packers game, I'm curious what is the point where they beat themselves? I have an answer, but I'm curious what your answer is.
Well, I mean, if we're just looking at the last play, the blocking was horrible, and the fact that you have to get, I mean, I just don't understand how you get blocked on the game-winning field goal. Is that not something that is coached into you to make the best blocks of the night on special teams, right? So I think if we're just looking at the last play, the blocking was atrocious, and that's a coaching issue. And a coaching issue that right before you have the game-winning field goal, that needs to be where the head coach goes and tells your guys, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. Block, right? If you get blocked on the second quarter with 3 minutes left, okay, I may not say that's special teams coach issue. To block to lose the game, that's a head coach issue. What was your spot where you thought they lost?
So mine is getting to that play. You bring up a great point with the blocking. My thing is they just basically settled for the field goal. They were about 30 seconds and they let a lot of time go. To me, they could have run a play.
I think that they just didn't want to give the Packers a chance, right? Because if you throw too many incompletions and it's not completed, right, there's going to be more time left. So I understand that part of it. I just don't understand why. Again, I think that if when the game is on the line, that's a head coach thing. Go to the Commanders game. There was a guy talking.
Sure. And he's a defensive coach. This is where the Commanders.
Sure. Yes.
I'd probably go Lions, Commanders, then Packers in my ranking.
It's funny. The 3 losses, one's a defensive, one's special teams, one's offense. Right? So you have all 3 levels. I think it's another reason. It's like there is nothing that is being coached correctly right now. And I mean, in the Commanders, there's obviously a cornerback who is talking to the fans, not worried about the play. And that was the guy who should have been on Noah Brown, who caught the touchdown pass. That's coaching, man. That's not, look, it's on the player. But for that player to be employed and in the game, the head coach designates that, right? So that's a head coaching problem. And you see it on all 3 levels. Like I said, special teams with the Packers, offense with the Lions, and then here, in the example we just said, is defense against the Commanders. All 3 games, I believe they should have won.
Yeah, and that definitely will change the season. And we'll have to see what Thomas Brown does. To me, that keeps the consistency, but I'm wondering what's going to happen at the end of the season. This is probably just going to be an interim thing. So I'm curious to see how this affects Caleb. I do think Caleb can handle the challenges of going to a team that is struggling and changing head coaches. But to me, it just doesn't make it easier, which is it's so tough. Like I thought Trevor Lawrence was can't miss and he's struggling. So that's something to where just make it easy on the guy. as best you can.
I in most cases I would blame the Bears here, but here I don't.
Okay.
I really think that this is a Matt Eberflus problem and not a management issue. Management's made mistakes, but they gave him every chance, and I don't blame him for giving him this chance.
Okay. All right. I think there was something to where these problems could have been seen over the years, and think about the consistency with the quarterback. So we just disagree on that, but we'll have to see what happens. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening, and we always love hearing your comments, and be on the lookout for more from Outsiders Opinions.